What if I told you the chart you're staring at right now is staring right back at you? Not judging, not warning, just reflecting. Every red candle, every breakout, every whip and lash the market throws your way. It's not just price action, it's personal, it's a mirror. And that chart, it knows your fear, your greed, your tendency to chase. It knows when you fake confidence. It sees when you're hiding behind indicators, pretending you have a plan. You think trading is about strategies, signals, and setups. But what if the real fight has never been with the market, but within you? Let me paint you a picture. A trader sits in his dimly lit room at 2:43 a.m. His screen glows like an altar. He's already broken his rules 5 times today. Not because the market tricked him, but because something inside him demanded to feel in control. Just one more trade, just one more make it back. And just like that, another candle cuts into his equity and his identity. This isn't a rare story. This is the default path of most traders. And not because they're stupid, not because they lack discipline, but because no one ever told them the truth. You don't trade the market, you trade your psychology. This is not a video about moving averages. This is a journey through your own mind. Based on the transformative insights of Brett Steenbarger, one of the world's most revered trading psychologists, we're about to step into what I call the inner dojo. In this dojo, every emotion is a blade, every habit, a form, every trade, a test. And by the end of this, you won't just understand trading psychology, you'll embody it, not by trying to be perfect, but by learning how to fight with honor in the battlefield of the self. So, if you're tired of getting knocked out by your own fear, rage, or self-doubt, if you're ready to finally win the invisible war behind your wins and losses, sharpen your focus. The training begins now. First form, the blade of emotion. There's a moment right before a bad trade where time slows down. Your finger hovers over the mouse. Your chest tightens. You feel it in your throat, in your gut. Every part of you is screaming, "Don't do it." And yet, click, it's done. The trade is live. And somewhere, buried beneath logic and rules, emotion just won the fight. Here's the truth most traders never confront. You don't change through strategy. You don't change through knowledge. You change through emotional intensity. And until you face the emotional roots of your behavior, no system will save you. Your mind is a blade, but most traders never sharpen it. They dull it with excuses, bend it with denial, or break it under the weight of unprocessed emotion. Every time you take a revenge trade, skip your stop loss, or chase a breakout, it's not a tactical error, it's an emotional echo. You're not reacting to the market, you're reacting to your past. Imagine a trader named Alex. At 17, he watched his father lose everything in a single business deal. That memory burned itself into his nervous system. Risk is dangerous. Years later, as a professional trader, Alex builds a profitable system. But every time he wins, a strange thing happens. He self-sabotages, overtrades, ignores the plan. Deep down, his subconscious says, success isn't safe. His emotion becomes the blade that cuts through his progress, again and again. This is what Brett Steenbarger meant when he said, "You change not by suppressing emotion, but by transforming it into insight." Emotions aren't your enemy. They're raw data. They're signals from your unconscious that something inside you needs attention. But most traders treat emotion like static. They try to mute it, numb it. But in doing so, they never get the message. And so, they repeat the same mistake, with louder consequences. Now think about your worst trading day. What was the trigger? A string of losses, a missed entry, someone else posting profits online? What if that wasn't the real problem? What if that moment simply revealed a deeper story you've been telling yourself about your worth, your competence, your control? Because here's the breakthrough. When you start listening to your emotional responses, not reacting but investigating, you begin to reclaim your power. The blade doesn't vanish. But now, it's in your hand. And with every journal entry, every breath taken before a decision, every moment you pause instead of press, you begin to master that blade. Have you ever wondered what would happen if you traded without emotional residue? No lingering shame, no desperation, just clear, calm, calculated execution. What would that version of you look like? What would your account look like? This is just the first form in your inner dojo. The blade of emotion is real, and it will either cut you or cut through your illusion. But sharpening your blade is only the beginning, because next, we step into the dojo itself and uncover how your environment is silently shaping your every trade. Second form, the dojo of environment. Picture this. A samurai trains not just with his sword, but within sacred walls, the dojo. A space designed to shape his posture, focus, and form. It's not just a building, it's a state of mind, built by what surrounds him. Traders, too, operate within their own dojo, but most have no idea how it's shaping them. The screens, the noise, the room, the tabs open, the lighting, the notification from Telegram, the equity curve on the second monitor, the tweet from some anonymous guru showing their 20R win. You think it's harmless, but your environment is always training you, consciously or not. You rise or fall to the dojo you're in, and if you haven't designed it, someone else has. Let's talk about Maya. She's a talented options trader, sharp instincts, solid journal discipline. But over the last 6 months, her edge has dulled. She's missing setups, reacting to noise, losing trust in her strategy. And then one day, during a coaching call, it clicks. She's been trading from her couch, TV on in the background, news alerts popping up, social media echoing in her ears. Her space isn't sacred, it's chaotic. She didn't lose her edge. Her dojo did. We assume our mind is a fortress, immune to surroundings. But neuroscience tells us otherwise. Environments anchor behavior. A kitchen triggers hunger. A church invites reverence. And a cluttered, overstimulated trading setup, it breeds impulsive, distracted, reactionary decisions. Dr. Steenbarger teaches, performance is not just a function of what's inside you, it's also a product of what surrounds you. If you're surrounded by clutter, your mind becomes cluttered. If you're surrounded by urgency, your actions become rushed. If you're surrounded by fear, your trades become defensive. So, let me ask you this. What's in your dojo right now? Are you trading in silence or with distractions? Are you surrounded by tools or triggers? Are your screens arranged for focus or for dopamine? What would happen if you restructured everything, not for entertainment, but for elite execution? Because your environment doesn't just reflect your psychology, it programs it. Maybe it's time to light a candle before you trade. Maybe it's time to build pre-market rituals. Maybe it's time to cut your screen count in half, or set intentional music, or disconnect from noise. Every detail of your environment becomes part of your trading identity. Every object, every sound, every screen, it's all training your nervous system for chaos or calm. Have you ever noticed you trade better in certain places? Or after cleaning your desk? Or when you light that one lamp? That's not magic. That's the dojo in action. And here's the twist. When you reclaim your environment, you reclaim your edge. You build a dojo that supports your discipline, not sabotages it. You create a space where clarity isn't forced, it's invited. But a strong dojo without reflection is like a sword without a sheath. Next, we'll unlock the most powerful, underrated weapon of all, your journal. And the way you've been using it is probably all wrong. Third form, the master's journal. There's something ancient about the act of writing. Ink on paper, thought turned into form. It's the bridge between the invisible world of emotion and the concrete world of behavior. But for traders, the journal is often reduced to a record-keeping chore, a log of wins and losses, a post-mortem spreadsheet, data, facts, and yet, the true power of journaling has nothing to do with numbers. The master's journal is not a ledger, it's a mirror. You see, every trade is a conversation between your conscious strategy and your unconscious patterns. And if you're not documenting that dialogue, it will haunt you, again and again. Journaling isn't about remembering what happened. It's about discovering who showed up. The version of you that chased, that hesitated, that got triggered by a news spike or a family text. Let's meet Carlos, a scalper, fast fingers, fast mind. For years, he couldn't break through the consistency wall. No matter how many strategies he backtested, something always slipped. Overtrading, impatience, early exits. So he tried journaling, not just P&L, but process, thoughts, emotions, questions. Why did I feel the need to re-enter after a small win? What did I believe was true about that trade and about myself? Patterns emerged. Carlos realized he didn't trust profit. Every time he won, he felt unworthy, like he'd stolen it. His journal revealed the truth. He was trying to atone for success, not grow from it. That's what Brett Steenbarger means when he says, your journal is your trading coach, but only if you let it speak back to you. And it doesn't speak in charts. It speaks in reflection, language, vulnerability. Let me ask you, what do you write in your journal? Do you simply list entries and exits? Or do you ask questions like, who was I trying to prove something to today? What story was I living out in that trade? Did I act from clarity or compulsion? Because journaling isn't data capture, it's identity excavation. Here's a hypnotic truth most ignore. We only change what we make conscious. If you don't journal your mindset, your patterns stay hidden, and what stays hidden rules you. Have you ever gone on a losing streak and thought, I know better. Why can't I do better? That's a journal crying out to be written, because until you uncover the emotional script behind your actions, you'll keep acting it out, blindly. What if from now on, your journal became your dojo scroll, not a log, but a conversation with your future self, a place where you train clarity, discipline, and inner truth like a sword kata, a place where self-deception goes to die and self-awareness is born. And the more honest your journal becomes, the less emotion will control your trades because it has somewhere else to go, somewhere safe, somewhere transformative. But journaling alone isn't enough because sometimes the war you're fighting isn't about logs or lessons. It's about ghosts, unresolved, unseen, and they show up not on your screen, but in the trades you ruin. And next, we're going to face them. Fourth form, fighting ghosts. Sometimes the market makes no sense. You follow the plan, yet override it. You spot the setup, yet hesitate. You promise discipline, then sabotage it. It's as if something invisible is pulling the strings, something older than your strategy, deeper than your logic. That something is a ghost, not a fantasy, a pattern, a memory, a wound. You think you're reacting to the chart, but you're not. You're reacting to the version of you that got embarrassed at 12, that felt abandoned at 16, that lost something precious and never made peace with it. These ghosts don't haunt your house, they haunt your trades. Brett Steenbarger said it clearly. We repeat what we don't repair. And in trading, the repetition is brutal. It's your third revenge trade in a row. It's doubling down when you swore you wouldn't. It's closing a winning position early, not because of strategy, but because you've never known what it's like to feel safe holding something good. Let me tell you about Jenna, a crypto day trader with a strong system and fast execution. But every time her profit reached a certain level, she'd feel a tightening in her chest, a pull to close early, to lock it in. She thought it was prudence, until her journal revealed a deeper fear. Growing up, her family had lost everything. Success never lasted, good things vanished, and so her subconscious said, don't enjoy this, don't trust this. Let it go before it disappears. She wasn't trading BTC, she was trading her past. The ghost wore a chart, and she didn't even know it. These aren't just emotional triggers, they're full-blown identities you step into without realizing it. The perfectionist, the gambler, the victim, the hustler, all masks inherited from a life before trading, now playing themselves out through price action. But here's the transformation. Ghosts lose power when you give them a name. When you journal the moment you almost overtraded, not just what you did, but what you felt, you begin to trace the shadow, and when you trace it, you can face it. What if every time you feel the urge to chase, you paused and asked, whose voice is this? What if before every entry you asked, am I acting from fear or from form? What if every losing trade wasn't a failure, but a flare signal from your unconscious, begging to be seen? Have you ever noticed how some losses feel personal, like they echo louder than they should? That's not the market, that's a ghost. That's unfinished emotional business hijacking your present-day execution. But you are not powerless. You can change the narrative, not overnight, but breath by breath, trade by trade, truth by truth. Because once you stop fighting ghosts, you start fighting with clarity. But if ghosts are what we drag behind us, pressure is what we drown in today. And in the next dojo form, we'll learn how to decode that pressure and use it not as a threat, but as a trigger for mastery. Fifth form, the pressure trigger. Pressure isn't a problem, it's a portal, but most traders feel it like a chokehold. The moment their capital's on the line, their system disappears, their mind contracts, and suddenly they're trading not with clarity, but compulsion. The hands click before the brain finishes thinking. And what gets blamed? The market, the volatility, the setup. But none of that is real, because pressure never lies. It reveals. Think of pressure like a trigger. It doesn't invent your emotions. It exposes the ones that were already there. Beneath every premature entry, oversized position, or desperate scalp is not just fear, but a belief about who you are, what you're worth, what trading is supposed to give you. And pressure, it squeezes those beliefs out into the open. Let me show you. A trader named Dylan is up $200 on the day. His strategy tells him, walk away. But a voice inside whispers, push it. Get to $2,000, you can do more. That voice isn't strategy, it's identity addiction. Dylan isn't trading to grow. He's trading to feel enough, to prove he matters, to avoid the emptiness of stopping. And that's the paradox. The more you need to win, the more likely you are to lose. Why? Because your brain under pressure shifts from strategic to survival. The neocortex, the part that plans, gets hijacked by the amygdala, the part that panics. You enter a trade not with precision, but with fire. You don't wait, you chase. You don't think, you react. Brett Steenbarger describes this as ego-involved trading. It's when your sense of self becomes entangled with your performance. You're not just risking capital anymore, you're risking identity. And that's why pressure feels unbearable, because now the outcome isn't just a number, it's who you are. So, how do you break free? By building separation between pressure and performance. By recognizing that pressure is not the enemy, it's a compass. Every time pressure spikes, it's pointing to something inside you that's still unresolved. A need for control, a fear of inadequacy, a hunger for recognition. You don't need to fight that feeling. You need to name it, feel it, then redirect it. Imagine reframing pressure as a signal. My need to win is rising, time to breathe. Or, I feel the urgency to chase, time to pause, journal, and wait for confirmation. This isn't about suppressing the pressure. It's about transmuting it. Have you ever considered what your trading would look like if pressure became a trigger for awareness instead of reactivity? If that rising heat in your chest meant slow down instead of go all in? What if pressure wasn't something to avoid, but something to train with? That's what martial artists do. They don't fear combat, they rehearse it. So when the fight comes, it feels like flow. Pressure becomes presence, tension becomes timing. And in the dojo of trading, that's your next form of mastery. But as we'll see in the next insight, not all fear is meant to be conquered. Some fear is wisdom in disguise. And if you ignore it, you might miss the very insight that could have saved your capital and your growth. Sixth form, fear is intelligence. Fear has a bad reputation. Traders treat it like a virus, as something to suppress, conquer, eliminate. No fear, they say, as if being numb is the goal. But here's the paradox. Fear isn't weakness, it's intelligence. It's data wrapped in emotion, trying to warn you of something your conscious mind hasn't fully processed yet. Let me explain. Fear shows up when risk exceeds readiness. That doesn't mean you're incapable. It means there's something important you haven't yet integrated. It might be real, like trading a size that's too large, or it might be imagined, like believing one trade defines your worth. Either way, fear isn't lying. It's trying to tell you something, not to stop, but to pay attention. Meet Jordan. He's a futures trader, known for discipline. Until he hits a string of wins, he begins sizing up aggressively. On one particular day, before a major Fed announcement, he feels fear surge through him. His chest tightens, his hands shake, but instead of honoring the signal, he overrides it. No fear, he mutters, and places a size that triples his normal risk. Minutes later, the volatility crushes him. A $7,000 day turns into a $23,000 disaster. The fear wasn't weakness, it was wisdom. Brett Steenbarger teaches, not all fear is dysfunctional. Some of it is your mind's way of processing subtle market cues or internal misalignments. When you ignore that fear, you reject an early warning system built into your own biology. But when you listen, something powerful happens. You begin to differentiate real risk from emotional noise. Let's reframe. Fear is your trading dojo's smoke alarm. Sometimes it's a false trigger, sometimes it's a real fire. The point isn't to never feel fear. The point is to build the awareness to ask, what exactly is this fear trying to show me? Is it fear of loss or fear of losing identity? Is it fear of missing out or fear of not being enough? Is it fear based on current market context or unresolved past wounds? When you begin asking these questions, your relationship with fear shifts. It becomes a teacher, a coach, an inner signal guiding you toward deeper self-regulation. And the more you respect it, not worship it, not suppress it, the more emotionally agile you become. Here's a powerful prompt. Next time you feel fear before a trade, pause. Don't label it. Don't fight it. Just sit with it. Breathe. Ask, what would I trade like if I were grounded, centered, calm? Then act from that state, not the fear. Because fear isn't your opponent. It's your mirror. And when you learn to read what it reflects, you become not just a smarter trader, but a wiser one. But here's the twist. Fear, when left untransformed, erodes the very core of what you need to succeed, confidence. And in the next dojo form, we'll rebuild that confidence, not through wins, but through something far more lasting, self-trust. Seventh form, the confidence loop. Confidence, the holy grail of trading psychology. Everyone wants it, few actually understand it, because confidence isn't what most traders think it is. It's not bravado. It's not a string of green days. It's not even belief. Real confidence isn't a feeling. It's evidence. And it's built, loop by loop, through the quiet act of keeping promises to yourself. Think about it. When you say, I won't overtrade today, but then you do, your subconscious records it, not just as a mistake, but as a broken contract. When you plan to size down after 3 losses but double up instead, it's not just bad risk management, it's self-betrayal. And every micro-betrayal chips away at your trust in the one person who matters most in the market, you. Let me tell you about Isaiah, a swing trader who spent years studying edge, journaling, backtesting. On paper, he was ready. But every time real capital was on the line, he froze. He'd hesitate, second guess, bail early. He didn't lack knowledge, he lacked self-trust. So his coach gave him a simple task. For the next 10 trades, don't focus on profit. Focus on doing exactly what you say you'll do. Entry, size, exit, nothing more, nothing less. By trade number 6, something shifted. Not because he won, but because he followed through. His brain started forming a new loop, intention, action, integrity. And from that, confidence emerged. Quiet, unshakable, earned. That's the confidence loop. Brett Steenbarger writes, confidence is built through preparation, but also through recovery. It's not just about executing well. It's about how quickly you bounce back when you don't. And this is where most traders collapse. They think one mistake ruins them. But if you treat every mistake as an opportunity to reaffirm discipline, your loop strengthens, even through failure. Let's make this practical. Start by defining micro-promises. Tiny behaviors you control completely. Not outcomes, not P&L, but habits. I will journal every trade today. I will wait for my setup to align on 3 time frames before entering. I will step away after 2 back-to-back losses. Then track them, not for perfection, but for progress. Every time you follow through, you tell your nervous system, I can be trusted. And confidence, real confidence, begins to grow. Not as a mood, but as an identity. Have you ever felt the dread of entering a trade, even when your setup is perfect? That's not fear of the market. That's fear of yourself, of not following through, of repeating the past. But imagine the opposite. Imagine entering a trade and knowing, regardless of outcome, that you'll honor your process, that you'll respect your plan, that you'll have your own back. That's the dojo of self-trust, and every promise kept is a brick in that foundation. But confidence alone isn't enough, because obsession can wear its mask. And in the next insight, we'll expose one of the most seductive traps in trading, the need to always be in a trade, and what it's really trying to cover up. 8th form, the obsession trap. You know the feeling, markets are quiet, no setups, but your hand, it twitches. Your eyes flick from one chart to the next, scanning for anything that justifies a trade. A candle closes, a line gets crossed. You convince yourself it's valid. You click, and instantly, regret follows like a shadow. This is not discipline. It's not edge. It's obsession. And it's the silent destroyer of so many promising traders. The need to always be in a trade isn't about opportunity. It's about avoidance. Because beneath the obsession is often something far more uncomfortable, silence, space, the void of not doing. And for many traders, especially those who came to the market seeking freedom, purpose, or validation, that silence feels unbearable. Let's talk about Malik, a full-time trader who left corporate life to trade for freedom. He envisioned calm mornings, intentional action, big-picture thinking. But within 3 months, his days were cluttered with non-stop trades. He couldn't sit still. Even during dead hours, he'd manufacture setups just to feel active. When asked why, he paused, then admitted, "When I'm not trading, I feel useless, like I don't exist." That's the trap. Obsession is rarely about markets. It's about meaning, and trading becomes the stage where deeper insecurities act themselves out. Brett Steenbarger warns us, the need to always be in a trade is often the need to avoid the discomfort of self. Read that again. Because if you find yourself checking the charts every 5 minutes, tweaking entries, forcing setups, it might not be about finding edge. It might be about filling a hole. So, what's the antidote? It starts with giving yourself permission to pause. Real pros aren't addicted to action. They're addicted to precision. They wait. They stalk the market like hunters, not gamblers. They know that discipline isn't just saying yes to the right trade. It's saying no to everything else. But more than that, you must get curious. What is my trading obsession protecting me from feeling? Boredom, loneliness, worthlessness? When you shine a light on that shadow, something changes. The urge loses its grip. Space becomes a teacher, not a threat. Try this. Block out a day to trade only one high-conviction setup. And every time your mind itches to enter something else, write it down. Track the urge. Name it. Then breathe through it. You'll find that every moment you don't trade becomes a rep in building true emotional muscle. Have you ever considered what kind of trader you'd become if you were no longer afraid of stillness? If silence wasn't your enemy, but your dojo? Because obsession is noise, and only in stillness can your real edge be heard. But stillness can only be sustained when the body is aligned with the breath. And in the next insight, we'll uncover how something as ancient as breathing can become your most powerful trading weapon, sharpening focus, taming impulse, and anchoring presence in every single trade. Ninth form, the deep breath between ticks. In the dojo, there is a pause between strikes, a silence between the inhale and the exhale, and it is there, in that microsecond, that mastery lives. Trading is no different. There's a space between the signal and the action, between the urge and the click. And most traders, they miss it. They override it. They suffocate it with noise. But those who breathe, win. Breathing is the oldest performance tool in the world. Yet in trading, it's the most overlooked. You manage your charts, your setups, your position size. But have you ever managed your nervous system? Because every rush trade, every sudden impulse, every reactive exit, that's not strategy, that's physiology. And your breath is the steering wheel. Let me introduce you to Lena, a former athlete turned futures trader. Her setups were clean, her edge tested, but her execution, inconsistent. She'd hesitate, freeze, panic exit. One day, during a losing streak, she remembered something her track coach once said: control your breath, control the race. So she tried it. Before every trade, she took 5 deep breaths. Box breathing. In for 4, hold, out for 4, hold, just like training. Within a week, her decision-making slowed, not lagged, deepened. She wasn't less aggressive, she was more intentional. The breath gave her a beat, a moment to check herself before the market wrecked her. Her journal read, "It's like I could see my emotions from the outside and choose differently." That's the gift of breath, choice. It interrupts the autopilot. It gives you back the space between stimulus and sabotage. Brett Steenbarger writes, "The state you bring into a trade shapes the trade more than the setup itself. And breathing is how you shape that state, not through force, but through rhythm, through presence." Let's go deeper. When you're anxious, your breath shortens, your chest tightens, blood rushes to your limbs, your brain goes into survival mode, fight or flight. And suddenly, you're no longer trading. You're defending yourself against an imagined enemy. That's how fear hijacks execution. But when you slow the breath, you send a signal. I am safe, I am in control. And your brain listens. Try this. Before your next session, close your eyes. Breathe in slowly. Feel your belly expand. Hold. Exhale with purpose. 3 cycles. Then open your charts. Observe the difference. It's not just mental, it's biological. Have you ever acted out of panic, then later thought, I knew better? That's a breath you skipped, a moment you bulldozed. But now you know better. Now you can reclaim that pause. Because in that breath, you reset your nervous system. You slow the spin. You come home to the present. And in trading, presence is the sharpest blade you can carry. But a breath can't save you if your entire lifestyle is grinding you down. In the next insight, we'll uncover why you don't rise to your goals, but fall to the level of your habits, and how your daily rituals may be the hidden source of both your chaos and your potential. 10th form, the rule of 30 days. You don't rise to the level of your ambitions. You fall to the level of your habits. Most traders set goals, big ones, 10K months, consistency by year end, no more overtrading. But goals aren't what determine your success. Habits are. Because goals live in the future, but habits are what you wake up to every day. They're the silent architecture of your results. Let's bring this to life. Imagine Noah. He's a retail day trader with all the right intentions. He studies setups, journals diligently, creates a trading plan every Sunday. But when Monday hits, life takes over. He wakes up late, skips breakfast, opens charts mid-session, and starts reactive trading. By Friday, he's drained and confused. His P&L bleeds not from lack of knowledge, but from the absence of structure. Noah isn't losing to the market. He's losing to his mornings. Brett Steenbarger says it best. Trading is not something you do, it's something you live. And if your life outside the screen is chaotic, your trades will be too. The market magnifies whatever system or dysfunction you bring to it. That's why elite performance isn't built during the trade. It's built before the open, in the routines, the repetitions, the seemingly mundane patterns that become automatic over time. Here's the truth. You don't become disciplined by deciding. You become disciplined by designing. That means building systems so simple, so frictionless, that execution becomes inevitable. Wake, journal, review, breathe, plan, trade, log, walk, reflect. Not sexy, but powerful. And over 30 days, this becomes your new baseline, your new identity. Because the rule of 30 days says this: any behavior repeated daily becomes a belief, and belief is the foundation of execution. But most traders build bad habits, accidentally. They check Discord the moment they wake up. They scroll Twitter during consolidation. They chase dopamine between setups. And these rituals wire your brain for distraction, not focus. Urgency, not discipline. So, let's rewrite the script. Design a 30-day ritual. Nothing massive, just one consistent morning routine. Maybe it's 10 minutes of breath work, then reviewing your trading plan aloud. Maybe it's visualizing one trade done perfectly. Maybe it's logging your state before the first trade instead of after. Whatever it is, anchor it to your identity. Because every habit is a vote for the trader you want to become. Have you ever felt like you know what to do, but can't seem to follow through? That's not a motivation issue. That's a system issue. And systems are built one brick at a time, one breath, one ritual, one day at a time. But here's the magic. After 30 days, it's no longer effort. It's who you are. And when your habits align with your highest self, the market feels less like a battlefield and more like an extension of your rhythm. But rituals don't just prepare you. They also protect you. And in the next insight, we'll uncover how to mentally rehearse a trade before you ever enter it, so that when the moment comes, you've already lived it once. 11th form, rehearsing the trade. Every elite athlete does it. Every Navy SEAL, every master performer. Before stepping into the arena, they rehearse. Not just physically, but mentally. They walk through the moment before it happens. They feel it, see it, live it. So when the pressure arrives, it's not new. It's familiar. Traders rarely do this. And that's why so many fall apart the moment money's on the line. They treat the market like a live test, not a rehearsed act. But what if I told you that every trade should be visualized before it's executed? Let's talk about Sienna. She trades high-volume breakout strategies, technically precise, but her execution was shaky. She'd get in too early, exit too soon, miss confirmation. Her coach asked her one question: "Do you rehearse?" She was confused. "Rehearse what?" He replied, "Your trade, your moment, your mindset." So, Sienna tried something new. Before entering any trade, she closed her eyes. For just 60 seconds. She visualized the exact entry, price action aligning, indicators confirming, mouse moving. Then the breath before execution, the click, the hold, the surge. She imagined the trade moving against her and staying calm. She rehearsed the plan emotionally, not just logically. What happened next surprised her. She stopped rushing. Her hesitation vanished. The execution felt clean, not because the market changed, but because she had already been there. Brett Steenbarger calls this mental simulation. He writes, "The brain doesn't distinguish much between vividly imagined experience and real experience. Rehearsed action becomes real action." That's why visualization isn't fluff. It's neural programming. You're wiring your brain to see success, navigate adversity, and maintain composure before the market ever tests you. Try this. Before your next session, pick your top setup. Close your eyes, walk through every detail, not just the trade itself, but how you feel doing it. What happens if price fakes out? What if you get slipped? How do you breathe? What do you say to yourself? Rehearse not perfection, but presence. Because this isn't about predicting the future, it's about pre-feeling it. So when volatility spikes, your hand stays still. When price whips, your breath stays slow. You're no longer reacting, you're remembering. Have you ever said, "I froze, I didn't know what to do"? That's a sign you haven't rehearsed. The unknown took over. But once it's been lived in the mind, it's easier to navigate in reality. Imagine this. Every trade you take from now on, you've already taken it once before, not with money, with mind. That's not superstition, that's skill. But even with the sharpest mental reps, you're going to get knocked down. And that's okay. Because in the next insight, we'll unlock the true edge of elite traders. Not how they win, but how they recover after they fall. 12th form, the art of recovery. Every trader gets hit. Everyone takes losses. Everyone slips, breaks a rule, hesitates, overtrades. The difference isn't in who falls, it's in how quickly they get back up. And yet, most traders obsess over their entries and exits, while completely ignoring the most critical part of their edge, recovery. Let's be clear, losing isn't the enemy, lingering is. You lose a trade, then spiral. Spend hours backtesting as punishment. Skip meals, stay up late, planning revenge entries in disguise. You promise to never do it again, but it happens anyway. Why? Because you've never learned how to fall with grace. Meet Ethan, a prop firm trader, methodical, hard-working, but emotionally brittle. A string of 3 losses would rattle him for days. He'd lose all perspective, second-guess his edge, and change systems mid-drawdown, until one session with a trading psychologist flipped everything. She asked him, "What's your post-loss ritual?" He blinked. "What do you mean?" She replied, "You have rituals before the trade. Where's your ritual after pain?" That question changed his life. Ethan built a recovery protocol. 1 hour after any major mistake, he'd log what happened, not just in the market, but inside his body. Then he'd step away, eat, breathe, walk, reconnect to something outside the screen. No charts, no decisions, just recalibration. Then, the next day, he'd write one lesson, not as punishment, but as integration. What happened? His drawdowns shortened, his confidence returned faster, and most importantly, his identity no longer crumbled with every red day. Because now, he had a system for falling. Brett Steenbarger says, recovery is not just about making money back, it's about rebuilding state. And this is the shift. Most traders focus on recovering capital, but smart traders focus on recovering clarity. And once clarity returns, the money follows. Let's go deeper. After a loss, your body goes into survival. Cortisol spikes, breathing shortens. Your scope narrows. That's when you chase, double size, break rules. But if you expect this, if you build a ritual around it, you interrupt the spiral. Try this. The next time you blow a trade, stop. Don't analyze it immediately. Don't try to win it back. Instead, step away and ask, what state am I in right now? If you're tired, angry, ashamed, that's not the time to trade. That's the time to recover. Movement, water, nature, conversation. Something real, something human. Have you ever made one bad trade that led to 5 worse ones? That's the cost of unrecovered pain. But imagine if every red day became a moment of mastery, a trigger for slowing down, reconnecting, realigning. Because trading isn't about being perfect, it's about being resilient. And the more you practice recovery, the faster you bounce. The faster you bounce, the smaller your drawdowns. And the smaller your drawdowns, the longer you stay in the game. But now that you know how to recover, it's time to zoom out. Because every trade isn't just about execution. It's about who you are before you even click. And in the next Dojo form, we'll uncover how your internal state, even before the market opens, becomes the real setup behind every setup. 13th form, the setup behind the setups. The charts don't lie, but they don't tell the whole truth either. Because behind every technical pattern, every breakout, every pullback, every confirmation, there's another setup unfolding silently. Your internal state, the mood you woke up with, the stories you told yourself in the shower, the energy in your chest as the market opened. That's the real setup. And if it's misaligned, no pattern can save you. We've all been there. The setup is clean, the signal is textbook, but something feels off. You hesitate, or you pull the trigger too early, or you size up beyond reason. Later, you ask, what happened? But the real question is, who was I in that moment? Because that's what determines execution. Let's talk about Danny. She trades NASDAQ futures, highly structured, pre-market routines, risk limits, back tests, on point. But sometimes, despite everything being technically aligned, she'd sabotage. Why do I only mess up the good ones? She'd ask. The answer came not from the charts, but her therapist. Danny had been waking up anxious, subconsciously fearing success. Her nervous system was primed for tension. The setup didn't fail, her state did. That's the insight. Your mental and emotional environment creates conditions for either precision or destruction. Brett Steenbarger puts it bluntly. You don't just bring your strategy to the market, you bring your state. And that state either enhances or erodes your edge. This is where most traders go wrong. They focus only on external conditions, volatility, macro news, volume, but they ignore the pre-trade scan of the self. How do I feel today? Is my mind calm or reactive? Am I grounded or hunting? Let me ask you directly, what's your mental setup before every session? Are you trading from presence or from pressure? From preparation or from panic? Here's a practical shift. Build a state check ritual. Before you analyze any chart, analyze yourself. 1 minute. Close your eyes, scan your breath, your heartbeat, your thoughts. Are they calm? Are they clear? Are they agitated, rushed, scattered? Write it down. If the state is unstable, you don't have a setup, period. Because trading isn't just about entries, it's about energy. If your nervous system is out of sync, no risk-reward ratio will protect you. The best trade becomes a gamble. But here's the magic. When you start your session in alignment, when you bring clarity, intention, emotional neutrality, you begin to feel something rare. Flow. Trades align. Execution feels effortless. You stop questioning yourself. You stop chasing. You become the setup. Have you ever had those days when it just clicks? The market breathes and you breathe with it? That's not luck. That's inner alignment. That's the dojo within, operating in sync. But to stay in that state, you must protect it. And that begins with cutting the noise, literally. Because in the next insight, we reveal how eliminating mental clutter becomes the shield that guards your edge and your sanity. 14th form, cutting the inner noise. There's the noise of the market, and then there's the noise of the mind. One is external, tickers flashing, alerts ringing, news headlines screaming urgency. But the other is far more dangerous. It whispers inside you. It second-guesses your decisions, replays your last loss, predicts your next mistake. And if you don't cut that inner noise, it won't matter how perfect your setup is. You won't hear it. Noise is the enemy of precision, and in trading, precision is everything. Let me introduce you to Marcus, a swing trader. Technical edge sharp as a blade. But before every entry, a voice would rise. What if this breaks down? What if this is the top? What if you look stupid again? It wasn't the market causing him to hesitate. It was the mental noise pollution clouding his decisions. Until one day, fed up, Marcus committed to a single idea. I don't need more data. I need less distraction. He began meditating for 10 minutes before sessions. He removed Discord from his trading computer, closed Twitter, turned off CNBC, kept only his charts, clean, minimal, focused. The first week felt strange, but by week 2, a new pattern emerged. Calm. He could feel his trades again, hear his intuition again. The silence wasn't empty, it was sharp. Brett Steenbarger once said, "The quality of your trading depends on the quality of your attention, and attention is a limited resource. Every time you check your phone mid-candle, every time you read another forecast, every time you flip through 10 tickers, you leak energy." So, what do? You start treating your focus like capital. You protect it. You budget it. You don't waste it on noise that doesn't serve your edge. Here's how. Build a focus frame. A ritual you enter before every session. You silence the world. You light a candle. You review your plan. You breathe. You enter the dojo. Not with fear, not with chatter, but with presence. Ask yourself, what percentage of your trading losses came from bad strategy, and what came from scattered attention? Be honest. Have you ever exited a trade and thought, why did I even do that? That's noise. That's mental static hijacking your clarity. And the only way to reclaim that clarity is to create space. Because in stillness, patterns emerge. In stillness, intuition sharpens. In stillness, you stop reacting and start responding. Imagine sitting in front of your charts with a quiet mind. No internal monologue. No emotional turbulence. Just clean observation. Flow. That's not fiction. That's available. But it takes intention. Because noise is everywhere. But silence is a decision. And once you've cut through that noise, you'll begin to hear something deeper. Your own voice. The voice of the trader you're becoming. And in the next insight, we'll train that voice. Not to critique, not to doubt, but to coach you in real time toward mastery. 15th form, the coach within. There's a voice in your head. Always speaking, always whispering. In the silence between trades, in the milliseconds after entry, in the breath before you size up, it's there. Most traders don't even notice it. But it's shaping every decision, every impulse, every result. And that voice is either your greatest weapon or your most silent saboteur. The question is, who's talking? Some traders carry the voice of a critic, harsh, doubting. You idiot, you did it again. Why can't you just stick to the plan? Others carry a ghost, a parent who never believed in them, a teacher who called them lazy. That voice becomes the inner dialogue. And suddenly, your trades aren't just about the market. They're about proving someone wrong, or proving you matter, or trying not to fail again. But here's the shift. You can train that voice. You can turn it into a coach. Let's look at Talia, a part-time trader with remarkable instincts but paralyzing self-doubt. After every loss, her internal monologue sounded like an emotional courtroom. Why did you even try? You're not cut out for this. Her journal entries weren't strategy. They were self-judgment. Her trades weren't executions. They were confessions. Then she learned about self-coaching. Her mentor asked, "Would you speak to a friend the way you speak to yourself?" She shook her head. So she rewired the voice. She wrote scripts, pre-trade affirmations, post-trade reflections. She didn't sugarcoat. She coached. You followed your plan. That's a win. You hesitated. Why? Let's explore, not blame. Over time, her inner voice softened, strengthened, became wiser, and so did her trading. Brett Steenbarger emphasizes this in his work. We become the stories we tell ourselves, and we repeat the patterns we silently accept. That voice inside you, it's not just commentary, it's conditioning. So, how do you shift it? Start by becoming aware. Before every trade, pause, listen. What is your mind saying? If it's critical, interrupt it, replace it. Speak what you want to believe, not as fantasy, but as intention. I trust my plan. I don't need this trade to feel worthy. Success is built one disciplined action at a time. The more you say it, the more your nervous system believes it. Your brain listens. Your body follows. Have you ever felt paralyzed after a mistake? Not because of the trade itself, but because of the avalanche of self-blame that followed? That's not the market beating you. That's your inner critic pulling you down. Now imagine this. You finish a losing trade, and your first thought is, what's the lesson? Not the punishment, not the shame, the lesson. That's the coach within. That's the dojo voice. And every day you reinforce it, Your trading identity grows stronger, more centered, more unshakable. Because the market is loud, but your voice, your trained, conscious, powerful voice, can be louder. And once that voice is aligned, the pain stops being punishment. It becomes pattern, which brings us to your next transformation, where you stop fearing mistakes and start decoding them. 16th form, from pain to pattern. Pain is the great teacher, if you're brave enough to listen. In trading, it arrives wearing many masks. A missed entry, a stop out too tight, an emotional blow-up. Most traders flinch from it. They numb it. They move on too quickly, chasing the next trade, hoping to bury the sting. But buried pain doesn't vanish. It repeats until you decode it. Here's the truth no one wants to face. You don't lose for new reasons. You lose for old ones, on repeat. Every mistake you keep making is a message, a pattern, a feedback loop trying to wake you up. Let's take Ryan, a solid swing trader, great analysis. But once every few weeks, like clockwork, he'd blow up a position, over-leverage, ignore his stop, then spend days beating himself up. He thought it was random, emotional, unpredictable. Until one day, while reviewing his journal, a chilling pattern emerged. Every blow-up came after a personal stressor, an argument with his girlfriend, family tension, bad sleep, emotional residue from life. He wasn't trading the market, he was trading his pain. The chart was just a canvas. That realization changed everything. Brett Steenbarger puts it simply, pain is inevitable in trading, but repeated pain, that's a choice, a refusal to learn. And learning only happens when you transform pain into pattern, not by reacting to it, but by reflecting through it. Here's how you begin. After every painful trade, stop. Don't run to the next one, don't distract. Sit with it. Ask, what was I feeling before this trade? What belief drove me? What did I ignore? What pattern does this reflect? Then write, not for punishment, for clarity. You're not reliving the pain, you're unpacking it. Have you ever felt haunted by the same kind of mistake, over and over again? That's a message you haven't fully heard. But once you do, something powerful happens. The pain loses its grip. The loop weakens. A new choice becomes available. Because behind every emotional mistake is a behavioral pattern, and behind every pattern is a belief. I need to make money today. If I lose again, I'm a failure. Others are succeeding faster. I'm behind. These beliefs drive behavior until they are brought into the light. Now imagine this. What if every painful moment in trading became an insight generator? What if instead of avoiding discomfort, you mined it for truth? What would your edge become if your losses no longer hurt, but taught? Pain is inevitable, but suffering, that's optional. When you train yourself to decode your pain, you're no longer a victim of your emotions. You're a master of your process. You take every scar and turn it into structure. Every failure becomes feedback. Every loop becomes a lesson. But learning from pain requires energy, clarity, rest, resilience. And in the next insight, we confront a modern trader's silent killer, burnout, and how managing your energy is now more important than managing your trades. 17th form, energy management. You don't need more willpower, you need more energy. Most traders obsess over edge, mindset, strategy, but they overlook the very fuel that powers all of it, their biology. You can't focus with a fried nervous system. You can't execute cleanly on 5 hours of sleep. And you definitely can't make rational decisions when you're emotionally and physically drained. Yet that's exactly how most traders operate, running on caffeine, adrenaline, and anxiety, thinking mental toughness will carry them through. But trading isn't just mental, it's physiological. Let me introduce you to Theo. He's a crypto day trader in Asia. Markets never sleep, and neither did he. 3 monitors, alerts set for every breakout, constantly plugged in. For months he felt on fire, until suddenly he wasn't. His edge dulled, his mood collapsed. He became emotionally erratic, snapping at the smallest drawdown. His journal showed no strategy flaws, but his health, crumbling. It wasn't a trading problem, it was an energy crisis. Dr. Brett Steenbarger warns us, the body is not a vehicle we drag to our trading desk. It's the foundation of our performance. In other words, trading begins before the charts, when you sleep, when you hydrate, when you fuel your brain with real food, movement, and recovery. You may think you're mentally strong, But if your biology is breaking down, your trading will follow. Let's go deeper. Your brain burns more glucose than any other organ. High-quality decisions, they demand energy. Every moment of focus, discipline, risk management drains that resource. And when it runs low, you'll chase, you'll force, you'll panic. Not because you're weak, but because you're depleted. So, how do you protect your edge? You build an energy ritual. Start with the basics. Sleep. 7+ hours. No excuses. Sleep debt destroys cognition. Hydration, dehydration mimics anxiety. Keep water near. Movement. Even a 15-minute walk resets the nervous system. Screens. Take intentional breaks. Every 90 minutes. Get sunlight. Look away. Recenter. Boundaries. No trading during emotional exhaustion. You wouldn't drive drunk. Don't trade drained. Have you ever noticed your worst trades often come late in the session or after a poor night's sleep? That's not coincidence. That's biofeedback. Your body is speaking. You just haven't learned to listen. But imagine this. What if your body became an ally in trading? What if you started each session energized, alert, emotionally stable? How much faster would you process information? How much calmer would you hold your trades? Because your body doesn't lie, and neither does your P&L. Energy is your hidden alpha, the invisible edge. And when you manage it like capital, everything sharpens. Discipline, patience, creativity. But energy alone isn't enough. You need something to channel it, something sacred, something that transforms your day from chaos into ceremony. And in the next insight, we'll unlock the power of rituals and why the traders who win long-term don't just have routines. They have spiritual systems for showing up at their peak. 18th form, the ritual edge. Routine is repetition. Ritual is reverence. And that difference, subtle, sacred, is the secret that separates consistent traders from chaotic ones. Every pro has a process, but the masters, they have rituals. Acts not just of preparation, but of presence. Not just tasks, but transitions. They don't just open their charts, they enter their dojo. Let's meet Alia, a commodities trader known for her zen-like execution. No overtrading, no panic exits, no drama. Her edge wasn't just in the charts, it was in what she did before she ever placed a trade. Every morning, same time, 1 cup of tea, 10 deep breaths. She reviewed her journal, lit a candle beside her monitor, opened her charts, no rush, no noise, just rhythm. This wasn't superstition, it was state training. She said, "When I do my ritual, I trade like myself. When I skip it, I lose myself." That's the power of ritual. It anchors identity. It reminds you who you are. And when the market storms, ritual is your calm in the chaos. Brett Steenbarger writes, "Rituals prime your emotional and cognitive state. They align your inner world with the external challenge." Think about that. Every ritual you create becomes a bridge, from distraction to intention, from fear to focus. So ask yourself, what are your current rituals? Do you even have any? Most traders start their day by accident. They check their phones, jump into noise, scan 10 tickers, compare themselves to others. That's not preparation, that's pollution. What if you designed your morning like a monk designs meditation? It could be as simple as reviewing your plan out loud, listening to one grounding track, journaling your intention in one sentence, cleaning your desk before touching the mouse, saying a mantra, "I trade the plan, I trust the process, I release the outcome." The ritual doesn't have to be long, it just has to be yours. Because rituals do two things. They protect your energy from scattering. They remind you of your edge, even when emotion wants to erase it. Have you ever started your trading day feeling off, and then watched that off energy infect every decision? That's what happens when you enter the arena without ritual armor. But imagine the opposite. You begin your session with intention, with breath, with clarity. You're not chasing, you're aligning, and every trade becomes a form of self-expression, not desperation. That's the edge, not speed, not signals, but state. Because a ritual isn't about control, it's about connection to yourself, to your purpose, to the trader you're becoming. And speaking of purpose, in the next insight, we reveal how the size of your position often reflects the size of your self-worth, and how shifting your inner value can transform not just your execution, but your entire trading identity. 19th form, self-worth and size. You don't just trade your capital, you trade your self-image. Every position you size, every risk you take, every trade you hold or cut too soon, it's not just technical, it's emotional. Beneath the spreadsheets and the setups lies something deeper, quieter, but far more powerful. Your belief about what you're worth. Let's get brutally honest. Most traders think they're managing money, but in truth, they're managing identity. And when your self-worth is fragile, your position size will mirror it. Too small because you're afraid to win. Too big because you're desperate to prove something. You're not just betting on a chart, you're betting on you. Take Jamal. He was a sharp scalper, meticulous with entries, but every time he sized up, even when conditions were perfect, he'd flinch. Exit early, second guess. It wasn't the market rejecting him, it was him rejecting the idea that he deserved bigger success, that he could hold more. When he journaled deeply, he uncovered a belief from childhood. Don't ask for too much, it'll be taken away. So, subconsciously, Jamal kept himself small. He sized his trades to match his identity, not his edge. Brett Steenbarger reveals, we unconsciously trade the size that fits our comfort with success. Read that again. It's not just fear of loss, it's fear of growth, fear of visibility, fear of finally becoming who we say we want to be. You may say you want six-figure months, but does your nervous system believe it, or does it sabotage it the moment size increases? Here's the shift. Position size must align with nervous system capacity, not just account size. That means growing gradually, expanding not only the account, but your ability to hold emotionally larger spaces. Try this. Instead of asking, how much can I risk? Ask, what size can I hold calmly without triggering sabotage? That's your real limit, not dollars, but stability. And from there, you stretch, bit by bit, trade by trade, breath by breath. Have you ever found yourself sizing up on tilt, trying to make back a loss fast? That's not strategy. That's shame. That's identity panic. Or the opposite. Have you shrunk your size so much after a drawdown that you're no longer honoring your edge, just surviving? That's not caution, that's self-doubt. But imagine this. Your trade size expands naturally as your belief in yourself deepens. No push, no force. Just a reflection of your growth, your calm, your clarity. Because when your self-worth rises, so does your ability to handle pressure, to sit with uncertainty, to execute at scale. This isn't about recklessness, it's about alignment, your capital and your confidence, walking hand in hand. And when they do, you stop trading to prove, you start trading to express. But expression, confidence, power, all mean nothing without courage. Because no matter how much you prepare, rehearse, or ritualize, the perfect moment to act will never come. And in our final dojo lesson, we unlock the mindset of the elite. Not waiting for readiness, but stepping forward with fear and owning your next level with the black belt mentality. 20th form, the black belt mentality. You keep waiting for the moment you'll feel ready, calm, confident, certain. As if one day, all the fear will fade and clarity will arrive like a divine bell ringing. But here's the truth. The pros never told you. That moment never comes. And those who win, they don't wait for readiness. They move with fear, through doubt, and into mastery. That's the black belt mentality. A black belt doesn't mean perfection. It means trust. Trust in the process, trust in your training, trust that even when fear visits, it doesn't control the hand, the breath, the execution. Because black belts don't eliminate uncertainty, they become clear in the presence of it. Let's meet Damien, a discretionary trader who spent 5 years learning but never launched size. Always a reason to wait. Always another book, another tweak. He was smart, studious, but stuck, until he heard one phrase from a performance coach. You don't level up when the fear disappears, you level up when you act despite it. Something shifted. He made a promise. From that day forward, he would act from intention, not emotion. He set rules, rehearsed rituals, built emotional tolerance. Then, when the moment came, setup aligned, plan confirmed, risk measured, he sized up, entered. Not because he felt fearless, but because he felt prepared. The trade worked, but more importantly, he worked, because he finally crossed the line that separates learners from doers. Brett Steenbarger teaches, mastery isn't the absence of mistakes, it's the resilience to keep showing up with purpose. That's what black belts understand. They still flinch, they still doubt, but they show up anyway, because every trade becomes a kata, a movement, a ritual of identity. So, how do you claim that mindset? It begins with a shift. Stop trying to eliminate fear. Start building capacity to carry it. Your job isn't to be fearless. Your job is to feel it fully and move anyway. You don't shrink from tension. You breathe into it. You don't wait for magic. You create it through repetition, alignment, and intention. Ask yourself, what have you been avoiding in your trading journey? Sizing up, going live, journaling honestly, executing your edge without tweaking it mid-trade? Now ask, what if I didn't need to feel ready to begin? What if my power lived in the doing? Because black belts aren't the ones who win the most trades. They're the ones who return to the mat every single day with humility, hunger, and heart. Have you ever taken a perfect trade and still felt doubt while holding it? That's the dojo at work. That's the moment the old voice gets tested. And that's your cue, not to retreat, but to stand taller. Because you're not here to feel safe. You're here to grow. You're here to fight. You're here to become someone who doesn't just read about mastery, but embodies it, trade by trade. And now that you've reached the final lesson, you're ready, not to finish, but to begin again, this time with a sharpened blade, a sacred ritual, and a deeper trust in the only dojo that matters, the one inside you. You've just completed 20 forms in the inner dojo, 20 insights, each one a blade forged in emotion, shaped by awareness, and tempered in the fire of real trading experience. These aren't lessons to be remembered, they're lessons to be lived. You've learned how emotion isn't weakness, it's signal, that your environment sculpts your mind, that your journal can decode your sabotage, that your ghosts trade with you if left unchecked, that pressure reveals truth, fear carries wisdom, and confidence is a loop you build, not a gift you find. You now understand how obsession is often avoidance in disguise, how breath is your anchor, how habits outlast goals, and how rehearsing your trade makes your future execution calm, not chaotic. You've seen that pain repeats until it's decoded, that energy isn't optional, it's your fuel, that rituals are sacred, not soft, that the size of your trade is the mirror of your self-worth. And finally, that mastery isn't a finish line, it's a mindset, the black belt mentality. But now, the real question emerges. Who are you when you close this video? Because this dojo isn't a place. It's a decision, a daily recommitment to awareness, to presence, to truth. You won't remember every insight word for word, but you don't need to, because the transformation has already begun. If this journey shifted something inside you, even just 1 degree, I invite you to share your dojo name in the comments. What identity will you train from now on? The watcher, the reclaimer, the quiet blade? Let's build a community of traders who don't just chase profits, but train character. And if one of these insights cut deep, copy it, post it, tattoo it on your whiteboard. Let it speak back to you when discipline fades. Because the market doesn't reward knowledge, it rewards identity, the one you trade from. And remember, the chart doesn't define you, your response to it does.